Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. We're holding Mishnah Berurah halachic Aleph, and in today's share, we will be learning Im Yirtzeh Hashem. We'll be completing Ayin Aleph Amid Beis, and we'll do, I think, a nice piece of Ayin Beis Amid Aleph as well. We're continuing to learn Hilchos Tefillin, and we pick up today on Ayin Aleph Amid Beis, Siman Mem Beis, in middle of Sif Gimel. We're up to the words of the Ramah on the top line of Ayin Aleph Amid Beis, Hagav im hisna olav mitchila. So let's remind ourselves of what the Mechaber taught us here so far in Sif Gimel. The Mechaber told us that if you have a sudar, you have fabric from a turban or whatever it is, you have a piece of fabric, and you prepare it. You do hazmana, azminei. You prepare it for use as a wrapping for tefillin. Or, let's say, more 2022, you have a very nice pouch. Not a pouch that you went to the embroidery store and ordered as a tefillin bag. Not something that you ordered from the cipher, I need a tefillin bag. No, you went to Home Depot and you saw a very nice pouch that they sell. You could use it to keep your cell phone in, you could use it to keep your tools in, or you could use it to put your tefillin in. So you have this pouch, and now azminei, you took it and you set it aside, you prepared it. You know what? I'm going to use this for tefillin. So the Mechaber told us if you have a sudar or some kind of a container, a pouch, or what have you, and you do hazmana, so you set it aside for use for your tefillin, and in the Mechaber's words, you did this la'olam. You said, I'm going to use it for tefillin forever. The Mishnah Berurah brought down, some say you have to say beferish la'olam. Some say you don't have to say beferish la'olam, as long as you didn't say that it's only temporary. But even min astam, we assume that you meant la'olam. So you did hazmana, and then you actually used it. So we have two factors here that lead to this pouch or this piece of fabric becoming usher for use for divrei chulin. One is hazmana, you prepared it, you said verbally, or you did some kind of maisa maybe, but you prepared it and you said this is going to be for tefillin, and then you actually used it for tefillin, even one time. Then in the words of the Mechaber, after that, aser lameitzar beizuzei, you're no longer allowed to use it for money or any other type of chulin use. Once you've set it aside for use for davar kedushah, like tefillin, and you actually used it for that davar kedushah, it's not available for use for divrei chulin anymore. Now we pick up with the Ramah, top line here, Ayin Aleph Amid Beis. Says the Ramah, Haga, v'im hisna olav mitchila, but if you made it tonight all the way at the outset, b'chol inyan shari, then it becomes mutter. Then even if it was used for tefillin, you could still use it for something else. And the Ramah brings this down from the Beis Yosef in the name of Rabbi Yerucham and the Mari Abuov. Okay, let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah, Eis Katan Yud Zayin. The words of the Ramah were, if you made it tonight, it's mutter b'chol inyan, no matter what. What is that coming to include? Says the Chavetz Chaim, afilu asa hakis l'shem tefillin. Even if you went ahead and you made this pouch for use for tefillin. So this is not only a case of like a verbal hazmana, you actually made the pouch, you created it for use for tefillin. V'gam tsorbei b'kvius. And then you went ahead and you used it every day for a year. So you're using it b'kvius for tefillin. Shari, it's still mutter. If now you want to turn around and you want to start using it as a cell phone case, it's mutter, b'kvius shari. Why, says the Chavetz Chaim? Kevan dehisna be'es asiyah. Since when you made it with a tanai, sheyi yayuchal l'shanois kishayirtzeh, that when you want to go ahead and use it for something else, you should be allowed to. That works. Utanai mahani, and the tanai is even effective lehishtamish bahen, to use it for something of chulin, afilu ba'oidon b'kedushasan, even when you're still using it for the davar kedushah. U'kemaisha kasav siman kuf nun dalet sivches, And this we could find in Hilchas Sefer Torah in Kuf Nun Dalet Siv Ches, when the Mechaber tells us that tashmishei kedushah by a Sefer Torah, if you have a nartik, if you have some kind of a sack that you keep a Sefer Torah in, and it was made with a Tanai, you could put something else into it even with the Sefer Torah. Even at the time that it's actually being used for the Davar Shebekdusha, a Tanai is effective. When you make something with a Tanai, it does not invest that item with the Kedusha that makes it aser for a Davar Shel Chayil. However, stresses the Chavetz Chaim, Letashmish Meguna Loi Mahani Tanai. But certainly you can't use it for something Meguna, for something disgraceful, because a Tanai doesn't work for that. What does a Tanai do? What a Tanai does is it prevents the item from being like Huktzah L'mitzvasai. It prevents it from becoming invested with the Kedusha that now is going to render it aser. But to use it for a Davar Meguna, that's something else already. That's a bezoyan for the Tashmish Kedusha. So Tanai doesn't help to allow you to create a situation of bezoyan for the Tashmish Kedusha. And the same thing would be, let's say you're wearing tefillin. So the ritzuas we learned are tashmishei kedusha. The bottom, those are guf kedusha. It itself is inherently kadosh. The ritzuas are not themselves kadosh, they're tashmishei kedusha. So let's say you're wearing tefillin, and you have your ritzuas or tashmishei kedusha, and you have to tie up a package. You can't use the ritzuas to tie up a package. Doloi mahani mishum bizoi mitzvah. That's bizoi mitzvah. You can't have a tanai that you're going to allow you to use your ritzuas to tie up a package. Okay, weiter in the Ramah. Bottom line in the Shulchan Aruch here on Ayin Aleph Amud Beis. Uklaf hamu'ubid l'shem tefillin. We mentioned this in yesterday's shir. Uklaf hamu'ubid l'shem tefillin. If you have parchment that was made l'shem mitzvahs tefillin, also lichtov alav divrei chayil, you're not allowed to write divrei chayil on it. So what are we speaking about here? You have klaf, you have parchment, but the parchment has not yet been used for tefillin. It's klaf that you processed. You manufactured the klaf lishma. You manufactured the klaf l'shem mitzvahs tefillin, but you didn't yet use it. Now you need a spare scrap of paper, and you have this piece of klaf on your desk, and you have to write down an important phone number. So you want to write the phone number down on the klaf. Says the Ramah, you can't do that. Klaf ha'mu'ubed l'shem tefillin also lichtav alav divrei chayil. You're not allowed to write divrei chayil on it. Now that's interesting, because over here, all you have is hazmana. So, in the context of what we've been talking about so far, this would be where you had a hazmana, you made a hazmana over here, you are mazmin, let's say we're talking about a tefillin bag. So we said that, and the Mechaber is going to say soon, if you have hazmana at the end of the sif, you can see in the Shulchan Aruch and Ayin Beis Amud Aleph, Azminei v'loy tsarbe, if you made hazmana, but then you didn't actually use the item for the tefillin, so you had hazmana, you went ahead and you made the kiss shel tefillin, but you never used it. You can see this clearly in the Mishnah Berurah on Ayin Aleph Amud Aleph in Mishnah Berurah Ois Cotton Tes. He says, Sudar, v'hu adinim asa kismei chadash. You made a tefillin bag, l'tzarich tefillin. Gam kein ein asa l'hishtamish bechayil ad ditzarbe. It doesn't become mutter until you use it. We need both factors. We need azminei v'tzarbe. And that's true even if the azminei, even if the hazmana was with a maisa, not just a verbal hazmana, but you actually made the tefillin bag, l'shem mitzvahs tefillin, azminei v'loy tsarbe, if you didn't actually use it, it doesn't become aser. Now, over here, what the Ramah is telling me, by klaf, if you made klaf, but you didn't actually write the parshias on the klaf, it's a blank piece of cloth, still in all, says the Ramah, cloth me'ubed l'shem tefillin, aser lichtav elav divrei chayil. It does become aser. You can't use it to write divrei chayil. Why, says the Ramah? The hazmana ki hai gavna, because a hazmana of this type. What does that mean, a hazmana of this type? The Mishnah Berurah is going to say a hazmana that's a maisa gemura, right? This is the manufacturing of the cloth was done l'shem tefillin. Hazmana ki hai gavna liguf hakdusha, for something which itself is set to become a davar shebekdusha milsri. Usually we say hazmana lav milsa. So buy the tefillin bag, hazmana of the tefillin bag. You bought the pouch at Home Depot and you set it aside for use for tefillin. That's verbal hazmana. Or even you went out and you made a tefillin bag, l'shem tefillin. So that's hazmana with a maisa, but it's still hazmana. Hazmana lav milsri. Hazmana is not enough to go ahead and make the item aser. Right. Hazmana is not enough to make the item aser. But that's by tashmishei kedushah. The tefillin bag is tashmishei kedushah. It is not guf kedushah. The tefillin bag itself is not a davar shebekdusha. It's tashmishei kedusha. By the cloth, when you make cloth l'shem tefillin, what are you making that cloth for? You're making that cloth to write the parshas of tefillin on it. You're going to write the Shem Hashem on it. So when you make the cloth l'shem mitzvahs tefillin, you're making it for guf kedusha, that it itself should be a davar shebekdusha. By guf kedusha, says the Ramah, hazmana milsa. Hazmana is effective to make the item aser. So if you manufactured the cloth l'shem mitzvahs tefillin, the hazmana alone makes it aser, and it's no longer available for divrei chayil. Says the Mishnah Berurah back on Ayin Aleph Amid Beis, Ois Katan Yud Ches, l'shem tefillin. If you have cloth that you manufactured l'shem tefillin, hainu aparshiyos shel tefillin. This is referring to the cloth that you manufacture to use for the parshiyos of the tefillin. V'hu adin, the same halacha would apply, says the Chavetz Chaim, oyer, hide, hamu'ubid lahabatim shel rosh oy shel yad. If you manufacture leather, l'shem mitzvahs tefillin, to use that leather to make the bottom of the shel rosh or the shel yad. Now there's a difference between the shel rosh and the shel yad. The shel rosh is oimid, it's set to have the shin of the shem shakai impressed on it. The oyer, the hide, the leather that's going to be the shel yad is not going to have a letter from the Shem Hashem on it. But it doesn't matter. Both the shel yad and the shel rosh are guf kadosh. They're tefillin. They're the bottom of tefillin. They have kedushah. It's a davar shebekdusha. So says the Chavetz Chaim, the same way if you manufactured parchment l'shem tefillin, that's considered a hazmana of guf kedusha, and therefore it invests it with kedusha, and it's also for divrei chayil with hazmana alone, even though you never used it. The same halacha applies to the oyer of the bottom. If you manufacture oyer for use as bottom for tefillin, it's hazmana of a maisa for guf kedusha. The hazmana alone makes that leather unavailable for divrei chulin. After ein chakik alav hashin, even though the shel yad doesn't get a shin, mikam makom guf kedusha mikri. The cholshkein or hamu'ubed l'sefer Torah or mezuzah, certainly leather, parchment that you make for a sefer Torah or for a mezuzah that's going to have the Shem Hashem written on it, that's what you're making it for, that's zicha hazmana for a davar shebekdusha, and the hazmana alone makes it aser. Ois katan your test, divrei chayil, you're not allowed to use this cloth for any divrei chayil. The Mishnah Berurah here makes an interesting distinction. You can't use this cloth for divrei chayil. Aval, however, lahiridai mikdushasai, but to demote this cloth in its levels of kedusha, kegain. For example, let's say you made this cloth l'shem tefillin. Now, lichtov alav mezuzah. You're a cipher. You prepared this cloth for the parsha of tefillin. Now you decided somebody came in, he wants to buy a mezuzah. He wants you to write a mezuzah for him. So now you want to use this cloth for mezuzah. Mezuzah is a notch down from tefillin. So are you allowed to take this cloth that was mu'ubed l'shem tefillin and use it for mezuzah? Says the Mishnah Berurah, that you're allowed to do. Avaloi ridoi mikdushasai, to demote it a notch. Kigoin lichtov alav mezuzah, for example, to use it to write a mezuzah, shekedushah kala mitfillin, which has a lower level of kedushah than tefillin, oishar divrei Torah, or you want to write divrei Torah on it. You're not going to use it for stam at all, but you're going to use it for divrei Torah. Mutter afilu al arsh and is abed l'sefer Torah. That you're allowed to do, even if you made the limud of the cloth l'shem sefer Torah. Sefer Torah is the highest level. Sefer Torah, then tefillin, then mezuzah. So if you have cloth that was mu'ubed l'shem sefer Torah, it's also for divrei chulin. But you could use it for tefillin, which is a notch down. You could use it for mezuzah, which is 2 notches down. You could even use it for divrei Torah. That you could do. Why? So first, the Mishnah Berurah says, "V'get have a davar shel chayil." How about for writing a get? Now, a get, by the way, we don't write gittin on cloth. A get could be written on computer paper that you bought in Costco. You need sirtut, you have to prepare it the right way, but you don't need cloth. But the sofer came to the get, and he doesn't have, nobody has paper. And in his tashmishei case, he has cloth. So he wants to write the get on cloth. Could he write the get on something that was mu'ubed l'shem tefillin? Says the Mishnah Berurah, no. The get have a davar shel chayil. A get is considered chulin. Va'asa lekasver al cloth al mu'ubed l'sefer Torah. You wouldn't be allowed to write it on cloth that was manufactured for a sefer Torah. Im lo shehisna, unless you made it tanai. Ukidla kaman. So you're allowed to demote the kedushah. Apparently, as long as you're keeping it as a davar shebekdushah, we're not concerned on the level of kedushah, as long as it's still going to be a davar shebekdushah. Now that's in contrast to other halachas that we've learned. We've seen other halachas where you're not allowed to demote in kedushah. So, for example, when you have ritzuas that you used in the shalrosh, we said you're not allowed to take those ritzuas out and use them in the shalyad. Over there, what you're doing is you're taking a davar shebekdushah that was used for a higher level of kedushah, and you're demoting it to use it for a lower level of kedushah. That's not the case here. Over here, we're only talking about hazmana. You took a piece of cloth and you made the ibud of the cloth l'shem sefer Torah, but you never wrote on it. You never wrote a pasuk on it. It's blank. Now you want to demote it and you want to write tefillin on it. That you're allowed to do because it's still a davar shebekdushah. Ois kat l'chaf. The words of the Ramah were that you made the ibud of the cloth l'shem tefillin. It's also for divrei chayil. Hazmana lav milsa. So the Ramah explained, hazmana ki hai gavna, such a type of hazmana that's being done liguf hakdusha, for something that's not tashmishei kedushah, but for something which is asid lihiyos, a davar shebekdusha itself, then hazmana milsa. But what did this mean? I spoke it out already. But what did the Ramah mean when the Ramah said hazmana ki hai gavna? Such a type of hazmana. Explains the Mishnah Berurah's Katchaf, shehu al yidei maise gomor. We're talking about a hazmana that's a maise gomor. It's a very significant maise. It's the manufacture of the cloth. La fuke, but this stands in contrast to im hayorak hazmana b'dibur ba'alma. If the cloth was there and you looked at the cloth, oh, I'm going to use that cloth for tefillin. That's not hazmana l'shem tefillin, which is now going to make it aser. Or you took the cloth and you trimmed it and you made sirtut, you made the lines l'shem tefillin. That's not a significant hazmana that's going to make it aser for divrei chayil. And the great distinction over here between this and we learned earlier by the sudar or by the kiss, the pouch for the tefillin, the great distinction is that over here we're talking about something which is guf kedushah. tashmishei kedushah. This is distinct from what we learned beforehand. Beforehand, we're talking about a pouch for tefillin. That's tashmishei kedusha. By tashmishei kedusha, azmana lav milsa. But by guf kedusha, azmana milsa. Lafuke azmana tashmishei kedusha kegoin asiyas kisla tefillin. Oy ibud oral ritzuis. You manufactured leather straps, and you said that you're doing it l'shem ritzuis, but it was never used in tefillin. That's hazmana for tashmishei kedusha. Remember, we keep saying ritzuas are tashmishei kedusha, not guf kedusha. Shu rak tashmishei kedusha. The mutal l'shanoisay afilu l'chayil. You want to take those straps and use them to tie up your suitcases? You can. V'ayin b'bir halacha shebiyanu, and the bir halacha, the Chavetz Chaim says, Tishaloi b'makam atchak, unless it's pressing circumstances, yesh lahachmi, you should be stringent, be'ibud arlu ritzuas. If you manufactured ritzuas, if you manufactured leather, and you did it l'shem ritzuas of tefillin, you should be machmir, you shouldn't use it for something else. Ois kan chaf beis, we're talking about guf ha-kedusha. Aval hazmana l'guf ha-mitzvah. How about hazmana for a davar shel mitzvah? Kigoin tzitzits, or in Yonah D'Yoma, shofar. You made a shofar. Luliv, sukkah, ner Chanukah. Afilo asan lekach loy mitzri. Even if you manufactured a shofar, l'shem mitzvah shofar, you want to play Yankee Doodle Dandy on it, you're allowed to. It doesn't become aser. The hazmana lav milsi, because hazmana isn't significant. Okay, the kaman b'simin tafrei shlam chesef alef ba'ga, where we talk about tzchach. And you could use these things for divrei chayil without a tanai. Where there's another nafkamina in halacha between tashmishei kedusha and tashmishei mitzvah, and that is that tashmishei kedusha need geniza. So tashmishei kedusha, a tefillin bag. A tefillin bag, you used it for 20 years and now it's worn out. You can't use it for anything else, and it needs geniza. It's got to go into shemus. But tashmishei mitzvah, tzitzit strings. Tashmishei mitzvah, nizrakin. You could even throw them away. Not ba'ifin b'zayin, but they're even allowed to be thrown away. An old shofar that's not usable anymore, you can throw it away. Milsihi, in these cases, hazmana milsa. After besef aleph kaimala the mutter l'shanos hashel roish ulahiridai miktushasai mitam da hazmana lav milsihi. Asks the Chavetz Chaim a very good kasha. Chavetz Chaim says like this: what are we saying over here? We're saying that hazmana by guf kedusha is a milsa. Frekt the Chavetz Chaim. Let's go back to Ayin Amid Aleph. Ayin Amid Aleph, Siman Men Beis Sif Aleph. What did the Mechaber say? He said, you're not allowed to change a Shel Roish into a Shel Yad because you're demoting it in Kedusha. You're not allowed to take the Ritzua out of the Shel Roish and put it into a Shel Yad because you're demoting it in Kedusha. But then later on in Sif Aleph on Ayin Amid Beis, the Mechaber said, if they're brand new, shadayin lo hinicham, they were never used, then mutal l'shanais afilu mishal roish shel yad. Then you're allowed to demote from a shel roish to a shel yad. So you have a brand new pair of tefillin. The sofer, the batim macher, he made a shel roish, l'shem tefillin, l'shem a shel roish. He made a significant ma'isa hazmana on a davar shebekdusha, guf kedusha. Right? Now the halacha is, says the Mechaber here in Ayin Amid Beis, it's Sif Aleph, he says, Lo yenicham, if nobody ever wore them, mutal l'shanois, afilu mishal roish shel yad. You could turn that shel roish into a shel yad. Why? Because hazman alav milsa. That's why you're allowed to do it, because hazman alav milsa. If you take a look at Ayin Amid Beis, Mishnah Berurah is cut in vav. The Mishnah Berurah says, Lo yenicham ha-roisha, if you never wore it, afal pisha zimnam ve'echinam l'tzarek ha-roish, even though they were manufactured, prepared, l'shem shel roish, hazman alav milsi. Now, what do you mean? It's guf kedusha, and it's a maisa. It's a significant maisa. Why don't we say that now hazman milsa, and you can't demote it from a shel roish to a shel yad? The answer is what we said earlier in this year, like by the klaf that you made for a Sefer Torah, you're allowed to even write divrei Torah on it, right? Says the Mishnah Berurah here in Chav Gimel, after b'sif aleph kaimel the mutter l'shani sashal roishu lohividai mikdushasai, if it was never worn mitam da azman alav milsi after shamhu guf akdusha shani hasam, that's different. Dal kalpanim oise behem kedusha k'tzas, because you're still maintaining it as a davar shebekdusha. You manufactured it for a shel roish, you want to change it to a shel yad. As long as it was never worn as a shel roish, you could still demote it and use it as a shel yad, because it's still a davar shebekdusha. The same way, you manufactured the klaf for a Sefer Torah, you want to write divrei Torah on it, you're allowed to. You're demoting it, and hazman milsa by guf kedusha. Yeah, but you're still keeping it kaddish. As long as you're still keeping it kaddish, it's okay. Aval hacha. But over here, by the klaf, you want to write divrei chayil on it. Aval hacha haloi writes a lases bem davar chayil. He wants to write a phone number on the klaf. That you can't do. V'lazem hani azmana b'guf hakdusha. V'ayin v'magen Avram, he says, take a look at the magen Avram Yishevi Deyos Acholken al Zeh, who bring down those that argue on this, who spherulu, when they hold da'af b'guf hakdusha azmana eino klum. The magen Avram brings down shittas that argue on this Ramah and hold that even by guf kedusha hazman alav milsa, and this klaf would mamish be mutter for divrei chayil. V'afal pikein inyan maisa, when it comes to halacha l'maisa, says the Mishnah Berurah, yesh lahachmer kasvara harishayna, we should be machmer like the Ramah, u'kemoshe kasavdu b'bir halacha. V'al kalpanim mahani tanai bazeh, but a tanai you can make. So, and if you did the ibud on the klaf, you made it with a tanai that if I want to change it for a davar shel chayil, I should be allowed to, that tanai works. Mihu, however, im hiske lichtov ala klaf stam, if you started writing stam on the klaf, you started writing bereshis, or you started writing kadesh, vaydaber Hashem, you started writing a mezuzah, Shema Yisrael, or shar kisvei HaKodesh, and this is very interesting. Well, I have to figure out what the halachic ramifications are from this Mishnah Berurah. I'd like to ask a posek. He says like this: Im hischil lichtov ala klaf stam. You have this piece of klaf, and you already wrote Vayedaber on it. Well, you wrote Bereshis on it. Oy shar kisvei HaKodesh, or you started writing other kisvei kodesh, afilu al haniyor, even on paper. You're no longer allowed to write divrei chayil on it. Because you did a significant maisa on guf hakdusha, it becomes aser for divrei chayil, va'afilu tanai loy mahani bazeh, and you can't even make a tanai. So here's my question. My question is, if you have a piece of paper, in your chumash, and you want to write a dvar Torah on that piece of paper, and it's parshas nitzavim. So you take out the paper and you write atem nitzavim hayoim kolchem. Okay, so you have an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and you wrote atem nitzavim hayoim kolchem. You wrote 4 words. Now somebody comes over to you and says, you remember that phone number you asked me for? Yeah, the phone number is 718-853-8954. So you write on the bottom of the paper the phone number. Are you allowed to do that? By writing a pasuk on the paper, and 3 words is already shemus. 3 words in a row from a pasuk are already shemus. Atem nitzavim hayoim is already shemus. So l'chora, according to what the Mishnah Berurah is saying over here, you made that piece of paper a davar shebekdusha. Are you now allowed to write a divrei chayil on that paper? From this Mishnah Berurah, it sounds like not. I'd like to ask a posek. Okay. And he says, afilu t'nai loy mahani bazeh. Now, I'm just going to interject over here because for the last 2 days, I have forgotten to mention this, and it's been bothering me. I'm going to take you back for a moment to Samach Tes Amid Beis, Siman Mem Sif Ches, the last Siman in Siman Mem, where we spoke about Achilas Arai by Tefillin. We said that if you're going to eat a Sudas Kva, you're sitting down to eat a meal, you have to take your tefillin off. Then the Mechaber said, the last words of Siman Mem, he said, Aval achilas arai ain't tzarich l'cholzan. You do not have to remove your tefillin for achilas arai. That's what the Mechaber said. And the Mishnah Berurah said, in Ois Katan Yud Tes, he brought down from the Sefer Shulchan Shloimeh, who's mistapik, that maybe this halacha, that you could eat an achilas arai in tefillin, was only back in the day when people wore tefillin all day. But we, who only wear tefillin by davening time, if you're going to have achilas arai, you should take off your tefillin. Now, this is very negaya, because a lot of times you go to shul, you finish davening, and somebody's giving tikkun. You want to go take a ragala and a cup of orange juice. That's achilas arai. Are you allowed to take an achilas arai while you're wearing your tefillin, or do you have to take your tefillin off first? So I spoke to a paisik, and I was told very reliably from a very close Talmud that the Rishiv Zatzal, Rav Moshe Zechet Tzaddik Kadosh Levracha, was not makpid, and he said you could eat an achilas arai even with tefillin on. Okay, I wanted to make sure to get that in. And I don't like putting those things in at the end of this year because I'm afraid there might be some people who we got to the end and they already turn it off and they don't wait for the last few words. So I wanted to stick it in the middle. Okay, so what have we said over here? So the Ramah told us that a significant maisa of hazmana on something which is guf kedushah, hazmana milsa, and that item becomes aser for divrei chayil. To take it down a notch in kedushah and use it for something of lesser kedushah, that's okay. But to use it for divrei chayil, he said, is aser. Now, let's go on and let's finish the Siman. Let's go weiter in the Mechaber. So far, what did we cover? The beginning of the Sif, the Mechaber spoke about a sudar, or a pouch, where we had both factors to aser it. We had azminei v'tzarbe. You did hazmana, and then you actually used it. So when we have the combination of both of those factors, the item becomes aser. Now, says the Mechaber, top line, Ayin Beis Amud Aleph, near the end of the line, how about azminei v'lo tzarbe? How about if you made azmana? You made a kiss shel tefillin, you made a tefillin pouch, or you bought a pouch at Home Depot, and you said, I'm going to use this as a tefillin pouch. So azminei, but v'lo tzarbe, but you never actually carried through on it. You never used it. Or the opposite, tzarbe, you did use it, but v'lo azminei. But there was never a hazmana. In both of those cases, says the Mechaber, shari l'meitzer bezuzeh, you're allowed to go ahead and use it for money or for some other divrei chayil. Now, why is this? Let's analyze this for a second. There's two cases here. Azminei v'lo tzarbe, tzarbe v'lo azminei. Let's take the first case first. Azminei v'lo tzarbe. You made azmana. You went ahead and you sewed a tefillin bag. Or like I said, you went to Home Depot and you bought a very interesting, nice-looking pouch, and you said, I'm going to use this for a tefillin bag. But you never carried through. No, why should it become aser? Why should it become aser? You changed your mind. You never used it. How is it becoming invested with kedushah if you never actually used it for a davar shebekdusha? So that one seems easy to understand. But how about the second one? Sarbe v'lo yazminei. You actually used it as a tashmish kedushah. You put tefillin in it, but you never had a hazmana. Why doesn't that become invested in kedushah? Apparently the reason is because if you use it without a hazmana, then our assumption is that you're only using it lefi shah. Think about it for a minute, right? Somebody went to Home Depot and he bought a pouch. He was never mazmin it for tefillin. He never said, oh, I need a pouch to put tefillin in. Wow, this is a very pretty looking pouch. I love Milwaukee tools, the red color. This is really a Milwaukee pouch. That's a high-end pouch. I'm going to use this for tefillin, right? That's a hazmana. Then he goes ahead and he uses it. So you got two factors over here. He was mazmin it, and he's actually using it. So he's really carrying through on his hazmana. So now it becomes aser. But if he went to Home Depot and he bought the Milwaukee pouch and it's sitting on the shelf, then he goes to the cipher and he picks up the tefillin. And the tefillin bag is not ready. So he's got the tefillin, he's got to put them in something. He looks around, what can I put the tefillin in? All right, I have that Milwaukee tool pouch over there. All right, listen, I need a pouch. I'll put it in there. He's not setting that pouch up as a kiss shel tefillin. He's just stuck right now. He needs something to put the tefillin in, and that's a pouch. That's the right size. So if there's no hazmana, even if he actually goes ahead and uses it, we don't look at that as he's investing the pouch with kedushah to make it a tashmishei kedushah. We look at it that he just needed something to use temporarily. So he grabbed the Milwaukee tool pouch and he's using it temporarily. That's why tzarbei v'loy azminei doesn't create an isser. Now it's very important to understand the mechanics of that, because now you'll understand something that the Mishnah Berurah is going to say. The Mishnah Berurah is going to say that tzarbei v'loy azminei depends on how he uses it. If he uses it b'kfius, let's say somebody ends up using that Milwaukee tool pouch for a year, and he uses it every day, then even though it's tzarbei v'loy azminei, it becomes aser. Why? There was no hazmana? No. The reason why tzarbei v'loy azminei is mutter is because we assume, since he never had a hazmana, we assume he's only using it temporarily. But if he's using it b'kvius, then his maisa shows us that he is using it permanently, and he is investing it in kedushah. It's not that it's a technicality. We have a checklist. We need hazmana and we need use. And we have to be able to tick off both of those boxes. So the guy used it for 10 years, but he never had a hazmana, so we didn't tick off both boxes. So 10 years later, the pouch is mutter. No. The only reason we need hazmana and use is because the two of them together prove that he invested it with kedushah. But if there's no hazmana and there's only use, it's only because he needed something and he grabbed it off the shelf. He used it for a week. Yeah, he used it for a week because the tefillin bag wasn't ready yet. But you use it for a year, I don't care if there's no hazmana. Now it's aser. It's a tefillin bag. You used it for a year. Okay, now let's see this inside. So again, the Mechaber says, azminei v'loy tzarbei. You had azmana but no use. Tzarbei, or you used it, but v'loy azminei, no azmana. Shari l'meitze bezuzei. Says the Mishnah Berurah Katan Chaf Dalet, tzarbei. What does it mean that he used it and there was no hazmana and therefore it's mutter? Pirish, what does it mean he used it? Lefisha. He used it temporarily. So if he used it temporarily without a hazmana, it's still mutter. Why? Because again, the Maisa doesn't show that he invested in kedushah with kedushah. He only used it temporarily and there was no hazmana. V'gam bistama, even if he uses it stam, in other words, he didn't say he's using it temporarily, he just started using it. Afilu imosikein pa'amim harbe, even if he did it a lot of times. Achshebakal pam hayulafisha derech harai, but it was always, he stuck it in for a little bit. Lainis kaddish ayidei say it doesn't become kaddish. Avalim tzarbe b'kvius, but if he's using it b'kvius, oishet tzarbe afilu pamachas, achshet tzarbe adaita dikviyusa, or even if he used it once, but he said, you know what, I'm going to use this. He did it b'kvius. He did it to use it. He didn't even say anything. But you ask him, I saw you use that tool bag on Sunday for your tefillin. What was your intent when you put the tefillin in there? And the guy says, yeah, I had in mind that that's going to become my tefillin bag. So I put them in. Then I went to shul and the Rav told me, Milwaukee tool pouch, not really appropriate. So okay, so I'm not going to use it. But when I put the tefillin in, I did it adaita dikviyusa. I did it with that's going to become my tefillin bag. Then all bets are off. Then you invested it with kedushah, buddy, and you can't use it for your cell phone anymore. Even if there was no azmana gamkin also, if you stated clearly that you're only using it temporarily. Afilu tsarbe gam pamim, even if you used it many times, v'gam hazmane meikara, and you even had a hazmana, mutter kol shelo yasa kis l'shem tefillin, as long as you didn't make it l'shem tefillin, v'chanal b'siv katan yodalad. Ois kan chafei v'lay hazmane me'olam l'shem tefillin, you never had a hazmana, making it l'shem tefillin, setting it aside l'shem tefillin, shari, yesh omrim dahainu asudah loy niskadish ha'yidei shetzarbe pamakas b'li hazmana. There are yesh omrim. There are those that say that when the Mechaber says over here it's mutter for divrei choil, yesh omrim dahainu da suda loy niskadesh. The sudar did not become a tashmishei kedushah al yidei shetzarbe pamachas b'li hazmana, through using it once or a couple of times temporarily without a hazmana. So yes, it's mutter. Aval kol zman shat tefillin sham, but as long as the tefillin are in the bag. You shouldn't use it with money also. You should wrap up the money separately if you're going to put it in the tefillin bag. Okay, that concludes Siman Mem Beis. Wow. Wow, we have left. We have Mem Gimel, Mem Dalid, and Mem Hey. We're almost at the end of Hilchos Tefillin. What a beautiful limud this has been. I'm recording this on Thursday evening. Tomorrow's Erev Shabbos. There's no shir on Erev Shabbos. Normally there would be a shir on Sunday. Sunday is Erev Rosh Hashanah. I don't know that I'm going to say shir on Erev Rosh Hashanah, even though it would be delicious to get the schusim in before Rosh Hashanah. But I don't know that I'm going to say a shir on Erev Rosh Hashanah. We'll see how the day goes. So in case I don't, aksiva v'chsima toiva gut gebenched yar. To my dear listeners, thank you so much for giving me the schus to be able to say the shir. I hope the olam enjoys the shir. I hope the shir finds its mark and you all find it very enjoyable and very uplifting. If there's anything I could do, please reach out and let me know. I thank you 1,000 times for the schus of allowing me to teach you Torah. Like I write all the time in the description, and I mean it sincerely. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. The schus of limud HaTorah should be a schus, and it should be megan for ganz Klal Yisrael. The Rebbeinu Shalom should send Yeshuas, Refuas, Parnasa, Shidduchim to all those in need. Tich le'shana v'kila lo'iseha. The klalos of the previous year should be finished, forgotten, done with. And tech le'shana bercha. We should start a new year together with bracha v'hatzlacha. The Rebbeinu Shalom should send Yeshuas for Klal Yisrael, Gans Klal Yisrael b'chol makom shehem, and we should be zeicha finally to what we're really mispal for in the slichas every day. If you take a look at the slichas are not, most of the slichas are not so much about us individually asking the Rebbeinu Shalom for slicha v'chapara. The slichas are more, we're speaking to the Rebbeinu Shalom as a member of the tzibur, as a member of Klal Yisrael, and we're beseeching the Rebbeinu Shalom to have Rachmanos on the tzibur, to have Rachmanos on the klal, and to bring the Geula Shlema, bring us to Yerushalayim, Ir Kachecha, with a Beis Hamikdash, with Malchus Beis David. We should be zeichet to be Mekayim all Taryag mitzvahs, Seder Kachim, Seder Taharis, and there should be an end to all the tzaras of Klal Yisrael. Be well.